The Western Cape provincial government stepping up its efforts to combat escalating taxi-related violence in the Cape by filing for an urgent interdict against both CARTA and CODETA. This decision coming in the wake of stalled negotiations aimed at curbing ongoing violence and intimidation that have plagued the province's transport sector into chaos. Joining me on the line is the MEC for Mobility in the Western Cape, MEC Isaac Sileku. MEC, a very good afternoon and welcome to the show.
Afternoon, Africa, and thank you for inviting me, and good afternoon to your listeners.
My understanding is that those court arguments are taking place as we speak. This urgent interdict against CODETA and CARTA is for what exactly?
No, firstly, what we are trying to we need to bring stability within the minibus taxi industry, and also is to put the safety of our commuters first as a priority. So what we seek from the court is for them to stop intimidating one another, and also stop infringing on the right of our commuters, that wants to earn a living by using public transport to go to work, go to school, and go to our health centers, and ultimately also to stop, threatening one another by rumors of, CODETA, planning to remove stickers from other taxis and putting their stickers on, vice versa. So that's what we want to seek. We want them to have stability, we want them to speak, and we want them to come with solutions.
And a court, should they find in your favor, will be able to issue such an interdict and force the two associations to stop intimidating one another, to stop all the other infringements that you've highlighted now?
Yeah, of course. Once we are granted that, and we are positive that we will get that, so they need to come back to the court and then explain to court how are they going to do that. And that's what we will appreciate, because ultimately there is no space in our province for killings, whereas we have created platforms and avenues for people, to speak, for people to negotiate. We always have disagreements, but there is no way that we use the barrel of a gun as a solution in this day and age.
Should they fail to do that, what sanctions are available to you and your government against the two associations?
Firstly, if the order is granted against them, they will be firstly in contempt of court. So, and secondly, we are also engaging on our own processes, which is our basically from the side of regulatory. In terms of the National Land Transport Act, as the minister, I have the right to close some routes and some lanes, and we are also looking at that. And the notice of intent to close some of the routes that are affected will be published very soon. And thirdly, from the side of the code of conduct of taxi operators, we have sent out letters to the affected associations so that they can appear before the register. If they are found wanting, they will face sanctions and a possibility of their licenses being suspended.
And which routes are in your radar, MEC?
So there is routes from Khayelitsha to Somerset, and there is Lwandle to Mfuleni, and there is also Mfuleni to Somerset West, and those are kind of routes, and there's another route as well. Around about 4 routes that are currently affected.
You were forced to suspend operations on those routes for 24 hours following the recent spate of violence that saw at least 2 people killed in Makaza Heights taxi rank, another 2 killed, supposedly not related to taxi violence. Has that been enough to quell the violence for the moment, or are you still worried and concerned about the safety of commuters?
Firstly, I must appreciate the efforts and the cooperation between the law enforcement officers and my department of mobility, City of Cape Town, our traffic officers, and SAPS, because SAPS were the one that actually closed the ranks, because in terms of their own powers, they can close the rank for 24 hours. And that 24 hours expired yesterday at 12 p.m. And subsequent to that, it has been opened, but there is still visibility. And I must say, for the last 48 hours, we have not seen any killings. So it actually helped us, to bring stability, because the operations are back to normal. But of course, one will always be worried that there will be this one that will just want to make things impossible for us as government, instead of strengthening our hand and working with us and work against us. We find those elements in the minibus taxi industry, those that want to work with government for peace and those that don't want to work for peace because they've got their own agenda.
Isaac, this must be frustrating then, the peace summit process that was started, a few weeks ago, between the various taxi associations, e-hailing taxi services, your provincial department, and other stakeholders. I was hoping that by now there would have been a second meeting, but my understanding is that no date has been set for that follow-up meeting. What will this recent spate of violence, what will be the impact of that, rather, on the process to negotiate a more long-standing, long-term peace settlement between the various taxi associations?
Now, Africa, what the provincial taxi peace summit was trying to do was basically to create an environment so that we have honest chats, we have honest discussions about the issues of the industry, because the issues of industry has been coming for more than 3 decades now, and we cannot operate like we've operated in 1985. And the Peace Summit was actually, one of the initiatives from the side of government to say what? No, we are committed to peace, we are committed to stability. And I must say, some of the operators during our and drivers during our engagement during the Peace Summit, we're really tired of saying that we don't want violence in our industry. We want to be business people, we want to be businessmen because we are earning a living for our families. But unfortunately, within a period of 3 weeks, we find ourselves in this compromised position. But we are not going to be deterred. We're not going to be distracted. We are still commitment as government. And one of the decisions that was taken during our meeting or summit was that all the issues that we have agreed upon was going to be elevated, during our minibus taxi task team. And that particular meeting was going to take place, next month, so that we can continue our discussion. Because we came to understand that peace is not a one-day, process. Peace is work in progress. Peace is something that we have to keep on talking about and bringing solutions to it. So we are not going to be deterred. As much as one is disappointed that after the Peace Summit, we find ourselves having to go to court for an interdict against the same people that we actually had a meeting with on the 4th of August.
Yeah. I'm not sure how many commuters we are talking about here in the 4 routes that you highlighted, where you might have to, you might be left with no choice but to actually take away the operating licenses of those taxi drivers and owners on those routes. What alternative means of public transport will be made available for those communities who will be affected by that decision?
In terms of the numbers that we have, we are talking about plus minus 3,000 people, include all those 4 routes. But there are different modes of public transport in our province. So we have been talking to some of them. So should we come to that decision and, we are forced to close some of the lanes and routes, there will be alternative transportation for everybody that wants to make a living, wants to go to school, wants to go to healthcare centers. So no one is going to be left behind. No one is going to be stranded. That is our commitment from the side of government. We have already had those discussions. And should we have to go that route, there won't be any inconvenience from the side of the commuters. We are engaging with relevant public transport.
This will then have to be supported by heavy law enforcement, because we do know in the past that when taxi drivers and operators have either withheld their service or been forced to suspend their service, they then, allegedly would take the fight to Golden Arrow bus services, for example, Metro Rail and so forth.
Yeah. Unfortunately, we've been talking to SAFs, and whatever decision or whatever proposal we come to the table we would have to get the support of the city, the support of SAFs, law enforcement, and everyone. So we will be ready for that. But ultimately, it's all about the safety of our commuters, and we won't be dictated by another mode of transport. So if people don't want to work with us, we'll have to do whatever we need to do in terms of our powers to make sure that there is peace and stability within our province.
All right. Thank you very much, MEC for Mobility in the Western Cape, MEC Isaac Sileku, his provincial department in the courts as we speak, making arguments for that urgent interdict against both CARTA and CODETA. We have our EWN team reporting on that, and the minute an outcome has been obtained, you'll be the first to hear about it.